As the world's attention is laser-focused on the Kennedy Space Center for the historic launch of Artemis II on April 1, 2026, a much more silent and ambitious operation is unfolding in Beijing. While NASA celebrates sending 4 astronauts on a 10-day loop around the moon, a feat not seen in over 50 years, the China National Space Administration, CNSA, is looking far beyond our lunar neighbor. This week, internal reports from the Tianwen-4 project, formerly known as Gande, suggest that China isn't just planning a scientific flyby of Jupiter, they are drafting a blueprint for long-term dominance of the Jovian system. While the West is locked in a prestige race for the moon, China is playing a generational game, positioning itself to control the most resource-rich environment in the outer solar system. The timing of these developments in late March 2026 is no coincidence. While the American Artemis program is plagued by billion-dollar budget overflows and technical delays, China is officially moving its interplanetary program from the theoretical to the engineering phase. The Tianwen-4 mission, slated for a late 2020s launch, has just cleared a major hurdle: the final prototype testing of its high-power ion thrusters. These aren't your standard engines. They are designed to sustain a massive payload over a 300 million-mile journey. For the first time, independent observers are realizing that China's goal isn't just to study Jupiter, it's to establish a permanent presence on its outermost moon, Callisto, turning the gas giant into a private Chinese laboratory. But why Jupiter, and why now? The dark truth is that the moon is merely a stepping stone, a training ground for the real prize. Jupiter's moons contain more water, rare minerals, and energy potential than the rest of the inner planets combined. By March 2026, China has already begun testing asteroid deflection technologies with their 2020 PN-1 mission, a test that many experts believe is a cover for perfecting the orbital mechanics needed to park heavy infrastructure in Jupiter's orbit. While the US is focused on the past, trying to recreate the glory of the Apollo era, the Red Dragon is building the infrastructure to own the future of the 2030s. If you want to know what China is really finding in deep space that NASA is keeping quiet, hit that like button and subscribe to Exoplanet X. The real space war is only beginning.
The biggest obstacle to conquering Jupiter has always been its distance from the Sun, where solar energy is 25 times weaker than on Earth. While NASA's Juno and the upcoming JUICE missions rely on massive, fragile solar panels the size of basketball courts, China is moving toward a much more radical solution. In March 2026, researchers at the China Institute of Atomic Energy, CIAE, successfully completed a 100-hour continuous test of a compact lithium-cooled nuclear reactor designed specifically for deep space propulsion. This nuclear tug isn't just a prototype, it's the engine that will power the Tianwen-4 mission, providing megawatts of constant electricity for high-thrust ion engines. By switching from solar to nuclear, China is effectively bypassing the limitations that have slowed down American exploration for decades, cutting the travel time to the Jovian system from 7 years to less than 3. This technological pivot is about more than just speed. It's about survivability in the most hostile environment in the solar system. Jupiter is surrounded by a radiation belt so intense it can fry standard electronics in hours. However, a nuclear-powered spacecraft can carry heavy, active electromagnetic shielding that solar-powered probes simply cannot support. This gives China a massive strategic advantage: the ability to orbit Jupiter's most dangerous and resource-rich moons, like Io and Europa, for years rather than days. While NASA's scientists are forced to design suicide missions that end in a crash to avoid radiation damage, China is building a Jovian tank capable of long-term operations in the heart of the gas giant's storm, securing the data and the territory that the West can only dream of reaching.
While China's rapid progress in March 2026 is undeniable,
they are facing a maturity wall that is difficult to climb with funding alone. The Jovian system requires more than just raw power. It requires decades of experience in deep space navigation and complex gravity assists. NASA's Juno spacecraft, which is still providing groundbreaking data as of late March 2026, has mastered the art of threading the needle through Jupiter's lethal radiation belts. China's Tianwen-4 will be their first attempt at such a complex multi-body orbital dance. Without the 50-year heritage of missions like Voyager, Galileo, and Cassini, the Chinese engineering teams are effectively learning on the fly, which significantly increases the risk of a catastrophic mission failure before they even reach the gas giant. Furthermore, NASA's diversification is its greatest insurance policy. While China's state-run program is focused on the monolithic Tianwen-4, the U.S. has multiple independent horses in the race. The Europa Clipper, launched in late 2024, is already en route to Jupiter, and the European Space Agency's JUICE orbiter is also making its way to the Galilean moons. By the time China's Nuclear Tug reaches Jupiter in the 2030s, the West may have already mapped every square inch of the Jovian ice moons and deployed the first generation of autonomous subsurface probes. China is building a magnificent first strike mission, but the West is building a distributed, resilient network that is much harder to beat in a long-term scientific and strategic marathon.
Beyond the hunt for resources, a provocative theory is circulating among orbital analysts in March 2026. China may intend to use Jupiter's massive magnetosphere as a natural planetary-scale amplifier. Jupiter's magnetic field is 20,000 times stronger than Earth's, creating a unique environment where radio waves are naturally intensified. If China successfully stations a high-powered relay at the L1 Lagrange point of the Jupiter Callisto system, they could effectively turn the gas giant into the great ear of the solar system. This would allow them to intercept deep space signals or monitor the encrypted communications of any lunar or Martian colony with unprecedented clarity. By late March 2026, as China opens its massive FAST telescope to more international collaboration, some suspect it's merely a training ground for this much larger Jovian-scale surveillance network. This strategic play fundamentally changes the stakes of the 2026 space race. While the world holds its breath for the Artemis II launch on April 1st, the true victory won't be won by the nation that loops the moon first, but by the one that secures the high ground of the outer planets. Tianwen-4 mission represents a shift from exploration to occupation. By aiming for Callisto, the only moon outside Jupiter's most lethal radiation belts, China is positioning itself to build the first permanent gateway to the outer solar system. This isn't just about science, it's about establishing a Jovian toll booth that every future mission to Saturn, Uranus, or the Kuiper Belt will have to pass. The conclusion for 2026 is clear. The era of symbolic space milestones is over, and the era of planetary geopolitics has begun. While NASA struggles with the bureaucracy of the Artemis program and the technical leaks of the SLS, China is moving with a singular cold efficiency toward the throne of the solar system. In the next decade, we may look back at March 2026 as the moment the torch was passed. The moon might still have American footprints, but the moons of Jupiter are quickly becoming the next provinces of the Red Dragon. The question is no longer if China will reach the King of Planets, but what they will do once they own its power.
The race for Jupiter is no longer a science fiction scenario. It is the definitive geopolitical battleground of the late 2020s. While NASA celebrates its return to the moon this week, China is already looking at the King of Planets as its next strategic province. But what do you think? Will the American private sector find a way to leapfrog the Chinese nuclear program? Or has the Red Dragon already secured the keys to the outer solar system? Drop your theories in the comments below. I read every single one of them. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and get the unfiltered truth about the 2026 space war, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Exoplanet X. We are tracking the moves that will define our species for the next century. I'll see you in the next deep dive.